All right. Hello and welcome to this edition of Redspin Sports. I'm back in the saddle with my co-host today, Michael Sampson, at Brother Flourish on Twitter. And we got a special guest today by phone, Big Game James Coleman. I believe it's still at Big Game James on Twitter, right?
Yeah, at Big Game James _36, because at Big Game James 36 got destroyed after
All right. Well, we can get into that for sure. But anyways, a little background. James Coleman hosts the Sports Den in Jacksonville, Florida on 1010XL, 92.5 FM sports radio there in town with Denny Thompson. He's also played at Florida State, I believe, from 2001 to 2005. Am I right there, James?
2002. I didn't redshirt, so I played 4 seasons.
All right. 02 to 05, right? Tallahassee native. I believe Florida high school grad, which is so linked in with FSU. Anyways, James has been he actually, when I was transferred from South Carolina to go back to try to get back playing football, which was sadly a fateful decision for me. I ended up really, fucking my back up. but I trained with James and Kes McCorvey there. They had Titus over at State World back in the day. Things have changed quite a bit since then. Real quick, I guess, James, just to hop in, are you still doing training stuff in Jacksonville? And if so, what gym are you at right now?
I do. I keep a handful of clients. I actually got out of the game full time, right. Like December 2019. So right before everything, I guess I had great timing.
Yeah.
But it's a couple parks right by the house. I just do it more for the fun, and mainly I'm just media right now. Media, and then I guess I'm trying to be a philanthropist.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get into that real quick. But I guess. What was the deal with 1010XL? I know on your show this summer, with all the stuff going on with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and all this stuff, you kind of getting attacked as the, it's not that, let's be real, 1010XL is not the most diverse, lineup, on the radio. A bunch of white dudes, but James is in there. There used to be a guy named T-Wig that would be in there. And, it's a big station run by a guy, Frank Frangie, who Mike and I have grown up listening to. Just so for those of y'all who haven't watched Redspin or listened before, I live up in New Jersey, which is literally where the Statue of Liberty actually is located, to give you some idea of just how close we are to New York City. But I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. So nonetheless, there's but Mike and James are down in Jacksonville still. And with the show on there, they, getting attacked quite a bit. But people, and especially when Denny would be out, I remember when I was back home in August, and these people wanting you to, as if this whole notion we hit on a lot, Mike and I, where people want this idea, like I guess certain fans have this idea that if you're their entertainment, and I argue that this goes back historically to even if someone's not conscious about it, that there's a history of minstrel shows, of entertainment, of reducing sort of black people and they're dehumanizing them to it's not so much what they're saying or whatnot, but the audacity of Colin Kaepernick, right, to break the rules, to take a knee, the audacity of people that black people, black athletes, not to just sort of stay in their lane and be my entertainment, because this is my escape, right, from my daily life. And if I'm spending my money, I'm not here to hear what you got to say about anything like that. I'm just wondering if you think that some of that mentality is historical, or some of that energy that comes from people, because it's a visceral anger, man. It's this stuff is related. The sports world's obviously connected. The NBA had a strike. There's sports were shut down. So I was just kind of interested in your thoughts and kind of some of the backlash you were getting just for talking about Black Lives Matter and issues pertaining to racial and social justice.
Because it was sports. It's what happens when people do that. I think it's an ignorance, but I'm a history major, so when you really go back, it's not just an American thing. It goes back to ancient Roman times, basically, in which the most popular people and the athletes of that day were gladiators, but they were also slaves, which I always joke with people. So when they say they're high-paid slaves, people don't understand that gladiators were essentially indentured servants, but they got paid a salary. They actually had more freedoms than the people who actually had their quote-unquote freedom and rights as Roman citizens. But they got paid when they were really, really good. They got gifts of wine, women, prestige. They had paintings. They had murals all over it. And so, but people didn't want to necessarily hear about a gladiator's opinion on sport, and I mean on politics. So, but as one of the sayings go, Rome needs her gladiators. So anytime that the world is really, really bad, we've always looked at sports to be an escape. But one of the ignorant statements that people make traditionally is that I don't want politics to mix with my sports. And I asked them, well, what era was that where politics wasn't mixed in sports? I said, was it when Jesse Owens was defeating the Nazis in the Olympics? And when he came back home and his president did not meet with him, but Adolf Hitler met with him? It was when was it maced? Was it when Jackie Robinson was integrating baseball? Was it when Bear Bryant in Alabama took a nice behind whooping by the University of Southern California, who had black players, and then that next year you saw him. It's just one of the greatest. ESPN did a good story about
Hey, James,
the first black quarterback.
James, it kind of cut out real quick when you were making the point about the Alabama USC game. You mind just kind of resetting that real quick?
Yeah. So basically, was it when Bear Bryant took the ass whooping by USC, University of Southern California, and then that next year, not too long after that, you saw desegregation happen? Could it be when Tennessee's first black quarterback, who was from the state of Alabama, had Bear Bryant, one of them? Bear Bryant literally had George Wallace pick up the phone and call a black recruit. I think the year after he said, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. I would argue that Bear Bryant might be the most important person in the civil rights movement because what Bear Bryant said, he wanted it. He wanted black players. Desegregation happened immediately.
Yeah,
so sports is So just saying, sports in general has always been what's pushing.
Yes. I wanted to add, I'm a big fan of your show, man. I think it was a couple years ago that y'all started or something. But I was back in Jacksonville. I was listening to 1010XL, and I heard the show, and people were speaking some like real stuff that you don't really hear a lot on radio. Just want to definitely shout y'all out on that, and I think y'all got a great kind of blend. I mean, I like all the views and perspectives, and y'all keep it real. And especially in this moment and stuff, when you listen to sports talk radio, especially I think after the George Floyd stuff, it was interesting to hearing the perspectives from different shows, you know what I'm saying? And like the different audience who called in from different shows, you know what I'm saying? And I think the Sports Den, a lot of it accurate. The audience of the Sports Den, I think it's diverse in age, but I think, I really like the dialogue, you know what I'm saying? I think Jacksonville's been missing that. So definitely supportive of the platform that y'all use. But as we were talking about sports and politics, how it's always been mixed. I remember, football players, I've always seen football similar. It's a social institution in like all our neighborhoods, all our cities. It kind of, a lot of it is like the church. You know what I'm saying? Like you think of it like how the church is not supposed to be like a institution that has any politics. You know what I'm saying? But then you definitely do get some pastors who will propagate some messages. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we got to vote for this person, even though they don't say it. Similar to like black churches, you know what I'm saying? You get that different perspective. And I think sports in a lot of ways is every Saturday, especially in the South, that hundreds of thousands of people congregate to, not with COVID, but they congregate to a stadium, they congregate in front of their television station and they TV and watch these athletes play, all of them who are not getting paid. And it's kind of like, I will say that college football in the South is a lot like a religion, but in that fact, in the same sense that sports is, has always been a political thing, sports has always been used as an avenue to interject some politics, in some form or fashion. You think of with football in general being kind of very bootstrap, thinking, you pull yourself up, You gotta, work hard, and you can have anything you want. And that kind of may cater to maybe a perspective that tells everybody who are, poor and shit, you gotta pull yourself up, because look at these players, not knowing that some of these players are born with some stuff that other people aren't born with, and that's kind of similar to the real world, like kind of how I always saw it, like a kid who's 5'9", like myself, 5'9", 265 pounds, I'm not going to the league. But if I was 6'3",
but you could start at Jackson High School though, and y'all had a lot of
success. Yeah, but I had a ceiling, you know what I'm saying? Right. And like you could look at it sports, based on how, based on like the God-given gifts, like physical gifts that you have, but also what you have around you, you know what I'm saying? The nurture, the mentorships and stuff like that. Your ceiling goes way up as opposed to if you, a 5'5", right, 120-pound cornerback that runs a 4.8, you have a ceiling. You're not going to go to as high as somebody else who wasn't born in the same circumstance. And I think that's similar to life, in regards to like poverty and class struggle. I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah. So James, I think that it was going in and out, man. Are you with us still? I didn't mean to get you cut off with your point. But
no, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I just had to mute it because I got.
Hey, we know how that goes, man. Hey, so if you want to react to anything Mike just said, or finish up, because like with the Bear Bryant point, I would just add that it's not that Bear Bryant was thinking about integration out of just like this principle. He suddenly had this crisis of conscience. He recognized the writing was on the wall. He saw Michigan State, 1966. They had this guy, what was his name? I forget the exact name right now, but he was a big, tall, super player. And the Big Ten schools were coming down south, and they were signing black athletes. And Bear Bryant was recognizing that, and seeing the writing on the wall. And and then it really came close to home once USC went into Legion Field in Birmingham, and like you said, whooped their ass. So wherever you want to take it, I don't know if you heard what Mike said, or you got the floor.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I didn't mean it from a standpoint that Bear Bryant was doing it. There's not a thing that's happened in America that's ever been done for the right thing. Like, so that's why I always joke when people say it's a Christian nation and we have to do the moral obligation. Slavery was not, like, we didn't fight the Civil War over slavery. We fought over slave rights. And not to end slavery. One side wanted more of a fair value when it came to that, be the North. And then the other side, being the South, said, "No, we want to keep our value." Hell, that was 3/5 of a human. Mm-hmm. That's when it counted. When it like we fought no taxation without representation, but literally had a whole society of people in there that were being taxed and had no representation, not even a full representation of a citizen. Yeah. So that's what I mean by that. So, but sports really pushes a lot of these things. So, like, why do I have a platform? Why do people even care about my opinion? My opinion is only valid because I ran fast and I hit people hard. Like, there's really no other reason for me to have an opinion. If you really think about it from a big perspective.
Come on, man! It's that great writing you got, man. What is it? 5th quarter? You still writing articles?
Yeah. So I still write, and it's funny, like, because people love it or they hate it. They're like, you shouldn't talk like that, but then, but we have a president. I tell them I'm just following the lead of my president. That's what my president. The president says the first thing on his mind. So why shouldn't I be able to say the first thing on my mind?
Most definitely.
Herschel Walker. When have you ever thought to get political advice from Herschel Walker? When has anybody ever told me outside of working out to be more like Herschel Walker? But now people want me, because I have means or because I have something, to be more like Herschel Walker, like without looking at without even looking at his personals. Herschel Walker got like 4 baby mamas.
Yeah.
Like any other time that you would tell, but see, they use the stigma of that a good majority of us come from the inner city. Maybe didn't have I call it not being raised with your pops, but we did not have traditional marital upbringings. Because the one thing I learned to do when I became a dad and I became a coach or a mentor is to stop disrespecting men. because I may not have had my father, but I had some really strong black men as coaches that were in my life who acted as fathers. So for me to say that, like, they were all dads. So like, it might not have been my reality, but doesn't mean just because it wasn't my reality doesn't mean that it was true or it was true or not. So I mean, those are the things. Those are the big things. So like when people, that's just always said. Like when people say like Mexico Olympics, people love Muhammad Ali now. See, and that's what my biggest fear is.
They didn't love him in the '60s, though. Right? They didn't love Dr. King.
They hated him. We love Dr. King now. They hate it. That's why they tell me to be like Dr. King. I'm like, which Dr. King? The one who said I'm coming to D.C. to get my check.
Yeah.
They called out white farmers for getting subsidies and land. They called out, these land grant colleges that would help develop them to teach them how to be agriculturists, but didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, even with all of that, and it's just not an angry thing. It's like my great grandfather had to move from out of Savannah, Florida, to Trenton, New Jersey, and that's where most of my family is in Trenton, South Central Jersey.
Right. The
story is muddy. All I know is he moved everybody from the family, him and his brother, from Savannah, Georgia, in the middle of the night in the 1930s. I can only assume that something went down.
I mean, but
he worked hard. He worked hard, but you know what he couldn't get? He couldn't get a loan. Mm-hmm. So he bought a house. The house is still there. My uncle lives there now. It's probably going to get bequeathed to me, but it's still there. He couldn't get that with a loan. What we know about loans, what we know about having readily cash available, imagine what he could have been able to do. Imagine if redlining wasn't there. Mm-hmm. Imagine if he could have sold that, because now the neighborhood's it's starting to get gentrified, but it had its dip. But imagine if he could have sold that and moved to a better neighborhood. Imagine the generational wealth we could have had. Maybe I wouldn't have had to have Run Fast. See, the thing is that Run Fast to hit people and be an athlete. See, the thing is, people think that because you're an athlete, you got your game by basically winning the lotto. But what they don't understand is how much hard work it took to get to that. And at the end of the day, this is just the way of karma even itself out. And not everybody gets that.
Right.
But like, what if my family didn't have to do that? Like the position that I should be in right now, if we could have just had simple property, it could be different. And I think the biggest fear of everybody is, what happens if there truly is an even playing field? Will I matter? Will I be able to exist? Will I be able to compete? And I don't blame a lot of people, because if I seen what certain people who have been kind of subjected to discrimination have had to go through, and they're still here, I'd be terrified if the playing field were even too.
Right. Yeah. And just to build on what you said real quick, and I'll take it over to Mike. MLK talked about, a nation that values militarism over social uplift is approaching spiritual death. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a safe bet that if you said that on 1010XL right now without attributing that to Dr. King, you'd have some pretty angry callers and people hitting you up on Twitter. And, Muhammad Ali, said ain't no Viet Cong ever called me the N-word, right? So, I mean, these are things that, have been whitewashed out of their legacies. I'm a teacher, I've taught high school and middle school right now, and you hear it all the time, Dr. King and Rosa Parks, with American flag backgrounds and stuff and inspirational speeches. They weren't trying to just like inspire people to make people come together, all this fake unity stuff. They wanted to build, strategic alliances based on struggling with things that were actually going to concretely make people's lives better. And, so that's a real important point, So Mike, you want to hit on anything, react to anything James just had to say?
No, 100%. I mean, it's funny, as I think I have a similar story. We got to Jacksonville because my great grandfather, they were from Columbus, Georgia. He worked at a mechanic, working on cars. So he worked on a white man's car. And this is a story that my uncle told me a couple weeks ago, and that was crazy. I never heard of it. So he's working on a white man's car. The white man refused to pay him. Then the white man pushes him and then punches him in the face. Apparently, my great granddad came out with a wrench, hit him upside his head. Then the shop owner, who owned the shop, said, "Y'all need to be out of town tonight." So that's how we got to Jacksonville from Georgia. So it's crazy to think about it. Like a lot of our stories are similar. Folks move up north because they escaped from a lot of the kind of southern white supremacy that trying to escape it up north and then kind of getting a different type of oppression, a different type of discrimination. But 100%, I was interested in, James, your thoughts really in regards to, how you see, because this year, and especially in regards to college football, you had the players kind of coming together around COVID, some of the Big Ten, Pac-12, is it Pac-12 now?
Yeah, the Pac-12, they were the most organized, yeah.
Yeah, they were the most organized. I guess it's because I think we lost them. Yeah, let's stop.
He'll hop back on. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I got lost right there.
It happens, man. Yeah.
No, just wanted to get your thoughts on all the kind of, because I don't know, man. I have never seen this amount of players even tweeting about shit, like tweeting about police killings, tweeting about Bowden, even the players coming together with that players union stuff. Mississippi State, what's his name, Kylan Hill,
Yeah, he said he wasn't going to play anymore, right? If they didn't take the Confederate battle flag off their state flag.
He took down the Confederate flag.
He came down in 2 weeks. Or a week.
He came down. He had one great game against LSU. And apparently he's not playing now. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I'm suspect. James, you got any insight on that? Because Mike Leach seems to have iced out Kylan Hill, who's
I don't know what happened.
Mike Leach has a pretty dubious past himself on race and stuff. So anyways, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't really know what's going on with Mike Leach. I know it's only 2 states. It's probably more, but I know I definitely won't go to 2 states in the South. It's Mississippi and Alabama. I'm terrified of them. Again, I'm a history major. They got interesting things that happen to people that just disappear. That until they can let me know what's going on with my family, we ain't never going there. But I think guys just kind of people said this stay woke movement. Everybody love to talk about stay woke. And I think some of that woke stuff is just to be angry. And but I think really to me. What waking up is looking at your situation and realizing the power that you have. That's the biggest awakening that you can have. And what these players finally realize is that my voice, my opinion, I can put it out there, and the social media has given me the ability to go viral. So if I say something, then it's going to go out there, and I can communicate with guys across multiple state lines way faster than anybody in previous generations could do. When I played, we could never talk about boycotting. It just wasn't enough communication. So when I first got to college, having a cell phone wasn't even considered normal.
Yeah. So
but now, forget a cell phone. Yeah. You got IG Live, you got all these things that you can say that people are going to be for you or against you. So you can see, again, the vitriol, or you can see the love that gets with it. And again, it's like when people say you're just an athlete or I don't care, but you see how much passion they have. Yeah. Like for you to be able to go out there and say, man, I just believe Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And people can be like, they can quote you inaccurate. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That don't tell the full story.
Yeah.
Like they can tell you that, Black people kill more Black people. What they don't tell you is that literally across races, what happens? People of similar race tend to kill people of similar race.
Yeah.
And but they also don't tell you what that story really tells you is that we're still very segregated as a society. Now, when I walk out my neighborhood, which is really nice, I have 2 white neighbors. One's clearly voting for Biden and Harris. The other one's clearly voting for Trump, for Trump and Pence. Across from me is some Mexicans. On the other side of them is some Chinese people and some Indians. Matter of fact, I have the most Indians probably in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm probably the only Black person that's more likely to be killed by an Indian than by a Black person. So when people say those statistics, and I tell them that my life and Black Lives Matter, they tell me this, and I tell them the statistics and the demographic of my neighborhood. Ain't nobody probably Black coming to kill me in my neighborhood. Plus, It's more of a thing of people who know you. But I don't want to be. I love cops. Cops are dope. I had cops at an event. They're cool people for the most part. But I shouldn't have to play Russian roulette if I get pulled over for a traffic violation.
Right.
Everywhere we go, we expect customer service. we expect McDonald's to give us the best customer service for somebody who's paying $7 an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
But why should I not expect somebody getting $25 to $30 an hour of my taxable income to when they pull me over for me to have a good experience leaving that?
Right.
Okay, yeah, their job is dangerous, but statistically speaking, nurses get killed more on the job than the police officers. And the police officers who die of heart attacks more than they die of actually being killed.
Right.
They got a pretty big advantage on people. Like, they're still in the hundreds, low hundreds when it comes to officer-related shootings, and we're in the tens of thousands when it comes to citizens. Yeah. But the percentage of people who are violent criminals is lower than COVID deaths.
Yeah.
So why should you come to me? I didn't ask to be pulled over. If you're that afraid, let me drive. And I don't want. So again, for me, asking for that, and I have a platform, so I'm more likely to have a better experience than another James Coleman who didn't play ball, who doesn't have a voice on radio. But I want him to have that same exact thing. Right. And when you say all lives matter, which people don't understand is the wording is you're literally agreeing with me. We're not saying Black Lives Matter more. We're just saying Black Lives Matter also. And the fact that somebody has to say that feels bad. But I like these young men seeing this because I've always been a proponent of this. One day you'll hang your cleats up, and what are you going to have to show for it? Right. Not the political side of it. I really don't care about. I care about that, but I don't. But it's like, will you have built up this platform that's big enough for you to be able to earn a living? Because when you've given 3 to 5 years to a university, especially a Power 5 one, and you can't eat off of your name, you wasted your time.
Yeah, no doubt. And real quick, I know Mike probably wants to get in on this, but I want to point out too, this happens. I hear this all the time. Jason Whitlock, especially. I just got done doing a thing on Outkick, and it's like a website that Clay Travis runs, and it's basically like an influence op. It's like it's basically they're banking off hating on BLM, hating on like athlete activism, and Whitlock sort of like the black guy basically who's saying all these things about. But what the thing is, he did this whole piece about all these young black kids that have been killed by gang violence, right? By drive-by shootings, and how nobody cares about them. And you kind of hit on it, but the difference with the police and why people point out police-involved shootings and how that's different than just black on black crime or whatever. When people are like you said, people are like, you're talking about neighborhoods that are economically resource deprived, and people are fighting over scraps, and then you have a system where it rewards snitching so that someone basically can save their own ass, right, and then send their partner to prison for life, basically. What do you think's going to happen in the streets, right? But the cop has the only one with the legal authority, right, the license to kill. It will be fully backed up, no matter what their story is, right? Through the Fraternal Order of Police type, these associations, and how people don't understand that that's substantially different than citizen on citizen crime that happens for various reasons. Blows my mind. But Mike,
here's the thing.
Yeah,
James, go ahead. Because I hate Jason Whitlock. Yeah. But I also understand I understand Jason Whitlock and Candace Owens. Go back and look at Jason Whitlock's beginning of his career. He was ultra woke. Ultra woke don't pay, but you get paid in attaboys for being, or what will be considered meritorious manumission. Basically, that's an old slave concept. Where if you were able to keep down your fellow African Americans, or you would snitch on slave revolts, or you would tell master these different things, they will reward you. So that's what Jason Whitlock. Candace Owens got her career started by suing for discrimination with the NAACP, but then has the nerve to say discrimination doesn't exist. But here's the reality. Gang members did not take an oath to the community. Police officers did. Gang members don't get paid through everybody's taxes. Police officers do. If you want to be a gang member, go be a gang member. But you also will probably be prosecuted to the highest extent of the law. Police officers tend to not. So when people want to, that's comparing apples to oranges. Exactly. If Mike shoots me, I feel very confident that he's going to jail. So I'll get justice. Right. I will be heard. But if somebody else shoots me, if a police officer shoots me, then what they're going to do is they're going to pull my elementary school record for when I skipped class. And they're going to paint me, the victim, as the criminal. And they're going to look at tweets. They're going to look at everything else except for that I was innocent until proven guilty, and I didn't get my day in court. Because the reality of it is, we wouldn't even have this. All I ask is one thing, is my day in court. And I tell my white fans or people who listen to me, I tell them I'm black. I say all I ask is that my sons, who are very handsome young men right now, they're smaller. They make us Coleman men really big though. So one day they're gonna be big.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be intimidated. We have a resting bitch face at times. All I ask is if they do something, they're not angels, I understand it. But if they do something wrong, we can afford attorneys. I want my kids to have their day in court. If my kid does not have his day in court, trust and believe, you're gonna have to wipe out every Coleman man. Because I believe in Mexican justice. If you kill my son, I'm going to kill your son. I want you to feel the pain that I felt. And that's how we're going to do. Or if somebody kills me, I'm going to tell you this right now, put it on your show. I can get ridiculed or I don't really care. Don't come and say James would want y'all to not react or James wouldn't want you to do, because that's a straight up lie. Burn this motherfucker down. Because make people understand, because if you do that enough times, maybe, just maybe, people will say, like, you know what if we didn't kill? Like the George Floyd thing, when they're talking about the city's burning. So, well, was the city's burning before the cop had his knee on his neck for 8 minutes?
Shit.
Maybe if we didn't put the knee on the neck, maybe the city wouldn't burn. Maybe y'all are worried about the wrong thing. But it's just common sense to me, but I don't know.
No doubt. I mean, Mike, you gonna respond? I was gonna go ahead.
No, even I guess even on the first front about police, I mean, you know, here locally, we organized for.
Hey, Mike, can you move a little closer to the mic? I want people to be able to hear this.
Yeah, here locally, we organizing for, it's a slogan, community control of the police, because we think that the community needs to have the power really to hire fire, because we pay them already. So we're fighting for a police accountability council so we can have that democratic right to have oversight, you know, and control our police force, since we're the ones who pay their salaries. But even in regards to, I mean, everything you said was spot on. I think it reminds me of, you know, if you ever want to understand what, you know, like, I feel like I'm bringing to Malcolm X. A lot of people like look up like his famous pictures and quotes and shit like that. I watched the movie. If you ever want to understand Malcolm's kind of ideology, you got to listen to his speeches, which are on iTunes, by the way. I think it's really, you can just listen to 5 minutes, but he talks about the, you know, of course he says the white man, but, you know, he talks about the oppressor understands a certain language, and they've been using that language for a long time. And until we start to use a similar language in defending ourselves, then when we start using that same language, they will respect us more, you know, and that's all it's about. Because right now we don't have that, you know, oppressed people, you know, black folks, you know, that respect isn't there. And obviously, you know what I'm saying, with the stuff that happened, you know, the Minneapolis police station, the precinct that got burned down, that was like majority of Americans who was polled was cool with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they wasn't cool with the other stuff. But that was crazy to me that people, when they was polled about, did you agree with protesters going ham at this police station from which these cops came from that killed George Floyd? Yeah. People were like, yeah.
Eye for an eye, right?
Yeah, fuck them. But I think it comes, I don't know where that came from. But no, everything you said was spot on, man. I think it goes to a larger problem. I mean, we bring it back to Jason Whitlock and Candace Owens. I mean, they making money, you know what I'm saying? And that's the market. They found a market. American capitalism is about finding a market. And they found a market. Just sell out and you get paid. And they getting paid. And especially in regards to this moment, because, you know, we talked about, you know, there was a name, image, and likeness, you know, college players being able to get paid for that. And it's crazy because you have these athletes who get this platform, but then use that platform against the players. So that brings, you know, one of my thought was, you know, Tim Tebow. You know, he's a local Jacksonville legend, you know what I'm saying, from the West Side. You know, he came out the year before me. So he was kind of in my era of football. But think about it, like, who benefits from being against name, image, and likeness? You know, these programs with these boosters that make a lot of money and don't want to pay these players nothing. You know what I'm saying? They benefit. But then you have some players who built a platform and then speak out against other players getting money. So, for example, he don't build his platform to such a level that he can just go on like ABC, you know what I'm saying, get a check, go speak at an event, and he making good money. He not even playing. But then to speak out against name, image, and likeness, and collegiate athletes getting money, and you got some of these other coaches who do the same and speaking out against that. I mean, that's happening either way or not. But I think it gets to a point that what James was saying about you want to, as a collegiate athlete, you have the ability right now to use that platform to influence people against your same collegiate athletes, just like Whitlock and Candace Owens use their platform against Black athletes to benefit, the millionaires and people making money. Like a lot of athletes use that platform that sports gave them to go against people. You know what I'm saying? Like a Herschel Walker. He crazy.
Plenty of examples.
And also, like, did y'all ever hear the legend? They said he got that strong because he did
push-ups,
1,000 sit-ups and 1,000 push-ups. Like, y'all believe that shit? Because I don't know if I believe that.
James, what you believe
that? No weights.
He did weights when he got to college.
Yeah, we got the college for sure. Yeah,
the whole thing behind that was is the old man. He got that way because
he's country strong.
He's genetically superior.
Yeah.
You know how he got that way? I bet you he believes this fucked up philosophy. Jason Whitlock believes it. No, you got that because he was bred. He comes from a long line of genes of slaves that was bred to be old country strong cat. Yeah. And he probably thanks God for that. Where I sit back and think like, hell, maybe I didn't have to get CTE if I wasn't bred or whatever. But whatever. But I'm gonna be honest with you. Like somebody write me. I mean, money talks, man. Everybody got a price, man. Somebody come and write me $6 million a year. If y'all need me to come, I'm transparent. You might not be able to tell with the way I talk, but I'm a registered Republican. I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm a social liberal. Yeah. Just don't take all my money and have sex with whoever you want to have sex with. As long as it's not me. As long as you're not effing me, I'm cool. I want people to be able to do that. So, I mean, really, I'm more of a moderate. I don't know. But bottom line is, if you write me a check for $6 million and you need me to Jason Whitlock, maybe I will. I don't know. I ain't never made that much money. I ain't never made that much money before. But I got pride.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying, though, man. It's like,
I don't respect them, but I don't pay their bills either. So, like, they probably some people get to the point where they really just don't care. And I really believe that's what it is, or they're going for the level of what's most comfortable. Right. And this is more comfortable. The attaboys that you get for saying, like for example, if PK Sam, I know you said I'm jumping ahead of it, but
it's all right. We can go ahead and hit on that now. So just real quick, Bobby Bowden, came out with a statement this last week. 91-year-old Florida State, head coaching legend. He coached JMCL from 02 to 05, and Bobby's like an absolute legend in the home state of Florida, my home state of Florida, and nationwide too. But coming out talking about Trump and we need to get back to the good old days and values. And former FSU wide receiver PK Sam, who's well known for the famous touchdown catch over Gus Scott in the south end zone there, Florida Field. I guess that was your sophomore year, James.
Yep.
Beat Florida, and I was actually at that game. I was in high school. I remember there was a big fight afterwards. I don't know if you got any insight on what started that, but so on a lighter note, but nonetheless, yeah. So basically that came out, and then PK Sampson, I've been telling y'all, Bobby Bowden's a racist, and for me, it's like, he's older, whatnot. You had your own thing, but people from that generation in general have a major blind spot, to be charitable, about the long-term effects of slavery, and how that is not just something that wasn't just an anomaly. It wasn't just something that happened and then we moved past. It was fundamental to what the United States was founded as, right? It was fundamental to the development of capitalism and this private enterprise system that exists now. In that generation as a whole, at least my take is that has a major blind spot to that, and even people that kind of apologize for it. But it's not so much an individual. I don't know. Let's I'll shut up right now and let James.
But like I was saying, if PK would have been like, "Hey man, 4-5, I ride with 4-5." He'd have got all kind of attaboys, and you're a free thinker when you participate in a certain group's group thing.
You're off the
Free
plantation.
thinkers should mean you should really bounce around with ideas. You should be open to different concepts. It shouldn't mean that I jump from Democrat to, because I subscribe to the Malcolm X philosophy. If you vote Democrat or Republican consistently, you're a traitor to your race. You got to go with who's doing what's best for you. But to that point with the Jason Whitlocks and the Candace Owens, white people do it too. Coach Bowden does it. To understand this situation, you have to go back to 2009 when Coach Bowden was unceremoniously let go. He was of the old ilk where they had handshake agreements. He was the coach for life until he decided to leave. So he didn't have. So what happens with these new contracts? You're guaranteed. So if I sign a 10-year, $2.5 million deal, I'm owed $25 million whether I finish that contract or not. But when I have a handshake deal, I don't have a contract.
Yeah.
Bobby was fired with no exit strategy. So he by no means is poor, but when you've been making $2.5 million a year for a while, you get used to a certain standard of living. Add to the fact that they had some family issues. They had some things. We had a son that stole money like in a Ponzi scheme and some things like that. But I point that out to Bobby got $50,000 in 2016 to come to the Trump rally. So if you give me $50,000 and I ain't really making no bread, I was gonna vote for you anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a no-brainer to me. Right. So that's why I was like, I'm not shocked. And then so when I seen this, he just came out of the hospital. He got some of the best treatment that he could get. He kind of made a mention of something before.
For those of you who don't know, he got COVID a few weeks ago and has since recovered. Yeah.
But if you saw the picture of Bobby, I've interviewed Bobby like just as recently as August, and he didn't look like the person I saw in August. That man looked like if people joke about the Weekend at Bernie's, if he ever looked like Weekend at Bernie's, that was the moment that he looked like it. He looked like he was barely holding on. So for me to believe he made a fully functional statement, and what really made me believe it wasn't him is when they added the dadgummit. That man would say that. That man
he's not gonna write that. He's not gonna write that in a letter, man. That's like
come on. So, but the family did it. That's what they feel like is in their best interest. Now, what I've done and what I did in 2016 was chose to not take shots. Bobby Bowden has been nothing but good to me. He's been like a father figure. He supports things that I do. I haven't had a bad situation. There are people who have had bad. Like there are people like who will tell you that, James, if you told them that there are people on this planet who think I'm an asshole. And rightfully so. I'm of enough honest opinion that if I know the person, I could probably tell you who probably thinks that. But there are a lot more people who would tell you that there's no way you could hate James. There's no way. James is so nice. He's so this. You can be multiple things to multiple people in different times. Exactly. PK's situation, and the reason why PK feels the way he feels, is he declared for the NFL. And he went to Bobby to talk to him about it. And PK had just lost his father, who was very important to him. He's probably still dealing with that, if we're being honest. And Bobby essentially, there was some conversation dialogue. Bobby, I think, told him it wouldn't be in his best interest, but then he told him you either leave or you play football. Either way, it doesn't matter. And he said, well, I'm going to leave. And he said, well, you're going to be a disappointment to your father. So just take yourself out of the Bobby Bowden as a legend standpoint. And I don't believe, the more I think about it, Bobby probably didn't mean it that way. But just put yourself in PK's shoes. You're 21, 20 years old. Your father, who was the breadwinner in your house, passed. Your mom maybe needs some more support. This is one of the most important moments in your life with the man who came into your house, who told your mom, told your dad, I'm going to be like a father to your son. I'm going to make sure he graduates. I'm going to do all these things, blah, blah, blah. Family, God, all these things. Just told you, I think you're a disappointment to your father. How would you respond?
Right. Yeah.
See, those are the things that people got. This is why I tell people, don't have a strong opinion if you've never had the intimate relationship with the person. Yeah. This was an intimate moment that is going to be forever ingrained in PK's mind. Whether it happened in the way that PK believes it happened or it didn't, that's his perception. So and every time something like this comes up, it's going to reopen a scar. Because what's the most disappointing thing for me is not who we voted for.
Yeah.
I do business with with people who are strong. I don't understand it, but for whatever reason, they love that motherfucker. And Biden wrote the 93 Con bill, which affected a lot of my family members and my friends.
Yeah.
So I get it. But Bobby has never taken, and all, at least I can't remember, Bobby has never endorsed a candidate before.
Yeah.
Like Bobby didn't go capping for, and I know Bobby probably voted for the dude from Boston.
Romney.
I know he voted for Romney. I know he probably voted for McCain.
Yeah.
And those are honorable guys.
But I feel you, though. It's like he never during his career was out there making endorsements and this shit. Yeah,
and he's a Christian. And I don't really, whatever. I don't want to get into it.
Yeah,
that's just not my thing. If you're a Christian, God bless. Do your thing. But I don't believe most. I believe him. And when he threw his Christianity behind him, I was like, yo, bro, like, yo, Bobby, you that. You are that Christian.
Just so you know, James, this podcast is anti-Democrat and Republican.
Yeah, you don't have to. We're not like stumping for Joe Biden and stuff, man. Because
no, I'm not. No. I'm just saying, like,
we think the whole establishment with two-party systems,
Wow. This is a dumb thing. We should have been past the two-party system, but that's another conversation.
I was I've been an NPA my whole life until this year, where I registered Democrat to vote for Bernie in the primaries. But this is the first time I've gotten any mail about them, and it's annoying, man. They keep texting my phone, asking me if I'm a vote.
It's terrible, man.
I told one of them, I told you, you're going to make me vote for now. I'm not going to vote for either one of them.
Yeah.
Y'all keep calling me, man.
I'm going to stay home just to piss you off. Yo, but one thing real quick, man, just is this whole deal with when you made the point actually about, what Malcolm X said, where, if you are always just going to be in the category of like, the Democrats feeling like they don't have to earn the votes of black folks, don't have to earn the votes of a lot of, Mexican Americans or, Latinx folks, or don't have to earn the votes of people on the left that, did so much organizing for Bernie Sanders, including Los Angeles Chargers running back Justin Jackson. There's a lot they treat the people that are like actually the movement people with contempt because they don't want to offend their corporate donors. And then they wonder why people aren't that inspired when they nominate a candidate. It's like, I want to beat Trump, but I also can't lie and say that I sit there and watch Joe Biden up there talking about, just BSing his way through his whole record, knowing what he did to Anita Hill and all this stuff, and feel good about in any way this whole situation. So I just want to let you know kind of what type of time we're on. I think Mike was trying to do the same thing.
No, when I saw the Bobby thing, I mean, it was just I know he didn't do it, but also it's just like Bobby, you know what he's gonna vote for. So it's not like he didn't convince anybody. I'm like, are you mad? Because look at it. Dan Mullen, you know what I'm saying? He probably, he's the one that talked about that 90K in the swamp. I mean, he was probably being facetious or whatever, but whatever. Who he probably voted for. I mean, I'm just gonna assume 98% of these college coaches are voting for Trump. I'm just gonna assume that.
If you're a white coach, you probably voting for Trump. Hell, my man Leach is
Leach is
being it's just I mean.
You think Kiffin? I wonder if well, what I will say is I do think Nick Saban. This is the thing about Nick Saban. He's actually a couple of years ago, I found out that he was a registered Democrat in some areas. And it's kind of that's always been the wildest thing to me, how Nick Saban is in Alabama and he runs Alabama, yet he's a registered Democrat. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, that always has kind of been wild to me. Yeah, but I just assume all these coaches,
I think that's what's going to make Nick Saban be, in my mind, the greatest coach. Now he's the greatest coach, and it's got nothing to do with what Bobby meant to me. It's got everything to do with Nick Saban just knows how to gauge the room.
Yeah. And think how much Nick Saban's changed. I mean, he used to be. How powerful he is. Yeah.
It's that Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
Nate, did you see that shit 2-3 weeks ago? He led a Black Lives Matter march.
I did.
Alabama, and he was in front.
So, but check this though. Check this about that situation though. So this is what's crazy about it. Big time Bama boosters started talking shit, right? They started talking that trash. We're gonna not give money. He told the AD, "Will you tell them that they're no longer welcome to give money back again, and they're gonna lose all their access to the program? Shut all that up.
That's power. That's power, man.
Power.
Yeah,
that's how you make change. That's real. Like you, man, it's so dope. It was so dope.
I feel you, man. Like I wanna hit on something though, just to kind of keep it moving transition wise, and like where you brought up talking about guys who have nothing to show for it. You know, and there's so many. I mean, that's something that kind of, as I started dealing, as I evolved kind of politically and got more conscious. It was a combination of factors. Now, I had a class my last semester at South Carolina with Cleveland Sellers, who was program director at SNCC, and was a huge friend of guys still to Carmichael and Huey Newton. They did organize with Dr. King and did all sorts of stuff in the movement, and learned a lot with that. And then, but it was also, I transferred to Florida State, and even though I was there playing as a short time, about like a month before I had to hang it up because of the back injury stuff, my brother ended up coming in the next year and played from 09 to 13. Was a preferred walk-on, earned a scholarship, and then finished up with the national championship. He played on special teams and was a backup, so he worked his way in there. And but nonetheless, like you see so many guys, and there's so many stories we talked about. I don't want to put names out there right now on people, calling people out individually, but guys who literally have nothing to show for it. And it brings up the question now of a lot of what's been going on. This pandemic in a lot of ways has sort of brought a lot of issues that already existed, like that were happening, that needed to be talked about. But because of like this is the irony I see, or the irony, that's the wrong word, it's overused too, but it tells you all you need to know when they talk about in terms of the sham of amateurism, the whole idea of student athletes, is that first of all, you can't even take classes in the afternoon or evening. So they're saying you're getting a free education. You're getting an approximation of that. Your job is to be there to play ball, right? They're invested in you to be there to play ball. Sure, they want you to get good grades. If you're a Myron Roll, you can promote that. But those guys, and it's not just Florida State. I'm talking on a macro level here. But the reality is, so they're saying that's what you're getting out of it. But then you have guys coming in. It creates like a lotto system where, like in oppressed neighborhoods, where guys are not imagining all these other things they could be doing because they're all just sitting there thinking the only way out is making it through ball. And it's like, which is fine. I mean, we all love football and stuff, but it's sad to see the sense on like senior nights. A lot of times I've coached high school football with OJ Small in Jacksonville at Lee, and then up here in Jersey City for my first year. And all with like, pretty much all black teams, quite frankly. And kids that were the fact that their imaginations and like what they've been exposed to and what's possible in the world oftentimes is so limited, and that sense of devastation on that senior night when you realize part of their identity, the kids that weren't going to be going and playing in college, that sense that like they almost feel like part of their life is over. And I think that there's got to be more attention paid to like, look, work your ass off, like put your do the best you can, but you can't define yourself solely on just being an athlete and stuff. And yeah,
that's crazy, because like if you ever wanted to see a bunch of they always 17 8-year-old black male, what I'm saying, that's kind of the archetype of what like a lot of racist people would think is like, oh, these are criminals and shit. If you ever wanted to go see a bunch of 17 8-year-olds cry, go to their last game, like their senior year.
High school football.
That locker room is like everybody crying. You know what I'm saying? After their last game, everybody crying, and that kind of to me is because the fellowship, all just like brotherhoods you form from the sport, but also a lot of these people is last time playing football. You know what I'm saying? And what football meant to them, and it could mean, like you saying, it means to some people, it means like moving up. You know what I'm saying? Like, how, college is always this thing where people always say like, this is where you can kind of go up in your class. You know what I'm saying? If you was born poor, you can go up and be middle class. You can whatever. A lot of these kids, man, they know they're not going to college. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's it's wild to me. And I think it's perfectly like legitimate for folks to see that has an outlet, because they're not seeing a lot of other outlets around them. Which you would have if you had your local city government or your local state reps pushing to get more money into the inner cities.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And funding community programs, all the shit that could lift people up, as opposed to them being so dependent on this sport. You know what I'm saying? That you know we all love, but
it just real quick before I know I'm going to kick it over to James right quick, but I don't know, you breaking up a little bit. Did you want to you finishing up something or? But I was just going to say real quick, it gets back to the whole thing we were talking about with people thinking, oh, these athletes are privileged, they're so fast. Like I wish I had a body that was like was tall and fast and could run like that. They don't realize how many guys there are that have that build that fall through the cracks in the system too. And so I don't know, James, maybe from your experience, just whether just at Florida State or on more of a macro level, in terms of, Michael Bennett, who played at Texas A&M, wrote a book, Things That Make White People Uncomfortable. He talked about how the coaches at Texas A&M basically, always were discouraging him from taking any classes that were going to challenge him, that were going to it was going to kind of get them off the path of just being a social science major, just sort of like, we know the professors, all that. And how that gets fixed, because I think that's what a lot of what the Pac-12 players were kind of talking about is, you're saying we're getting a free education, but in a lot of ways, they're really, I think the right word is unpaid athletic laborers, and I'm just wondering what you think about that. And I don't know if you heard me, but unpaid, I think they're unpaid athletic laborers more so than student athletes, but what's your take?
No, you're 100% right. Here's you want to know what the free football degree is? Just look at what 90% of the roster is. It's always like social science or something like that.
Interdisciplinary
so they're
studies.
Always I can't really overly pick on them because that's what my major was. But their job is to keep you on.
No, there's nothing wrong with social sciences. I'm just saying it's the way they use social sciences, sort of be a vehicle.
No. I'm saying they're trying to keep you eligible.
Yeah.
They want you eligible. And the only way to be eligible is if you have so you can't lower than a 2.02 consecutive semester. So they're gonna put you in things to keep you eligible, to keep you making sure your grades are good. They're gonna make you take music history that they've had every athlete take. They're gonna have you in all these other classes to make sure that you're able to function.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
That's really
it's funny. I was a social.
There's nothing wrong with social sciences, man.
No, I was a political science major, and then I thought I got too many, at Florida State, and then so at Florida State, that's when I started activism and shit, and so I kind of stopped caring about class. And so I ended up getting a social sciences, but then it was like, oh, your grandfather. So I did get a political science, social sciences. So I can attest to those degrees being, kind of low maintenance. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it's chemical engineering or something.
You can just email the professor and say, I'm having a tough time in life right now. Let me give me a
all my professors talk shit to me about not coming to class. They're like, you're smart. Why don't you come to class? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just sleeping or something. But no, 100%. It's even funny is the fact that even on a campus of let's say Michigan State, this whole facade of collegiate athletes, they're on campus, yet other students aren't, because it's too dangerous because of COVID. Or some of these other schools, the athletes are on campus, specifically the football athletes are on campus. Yeah. So I think what COVID has done is pull the whole facade of student athlete off this whole naked machine. It's about making money. These athletes make your school a shitload of money, and they make your program a bunch of money, and you need them there. Because if they're not playing, money isn't being made, and these other students, you making money off of them anyway. Housing, tuition. You may not be making money off of on campus food and stuff like that, but you still making money. Yeah. These collegiate athletes, where's the concern for this whole thought about we gotta we're protecting the student body and all this shit. That's why they're not on campus. Yet the football players is
right.
That don't make sense.
No, bro. It's the whole thing, man. It's wild, but you look at it where they try to make this argument with a straight face, and you hear fans saying it too. That how do you want to deprive? Because it's look,
the issue of playing during the pandemic, it brings up a lot of things. It's not just about the games. It's like about like, you know, all the people that come into town to party and stuff, you know, the scene outside. So those are all considerations. But all you need to know is the schools that are playing are the schools whose athletic departments and the conferences they're in depend on the money, because D2's not playing. No one cares about the student athlete experience being robbed of the kids that play at Mount Union and Wisconsin Whitewater, the perennial Division III national championship game matchup we have every year. No one cares about that, right?
So it's Dakota State.
Yeah.
Even though I would have liked for them to play, because I'm trying to see how that how Trey Lance looked. But yeah, I get your point.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of where I am with that. But you know, you
definitely nobody cared about it. Like yeah, that's why I told people. I was like, I knew they were going to play.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of time. They're like, why? Because again, the only time anybody does the right thing in America is when it affects the money. But just think about like they know. So you get, let's say college football. Let's just say this, it's $1 billion, right? And we know that we don't know anything about this COVID. But let's say they can go get $10 billion before we really know all the effects of COVID and what it's going to mean to them. The settlement, they're going to be lawsuits 10 years after that, and the settlement will be for like $5 million. But during that whole time, you made $20 million. $15 billion win. I'm gonna take that all day. That's just the business side of it. It's unfortunate, but that's why I'm okay with the players speaking out, because now they're realizing like, yo, I'm a business and they're taking advantage of me.
Right.
Okay, there's only so much I could do in this situation, so I'm gonna leverage to the best of my ability. And when they said that they weren't going to play, they were going to boycott, they were scared to death. And that's really when they lost it.
And that's power right there. I mean, yeah. When you think about it.
That's real power. And I mean, yeah, it kind of shows just the power that sports has. You know what I'm saying? Especially collegiate athletes, given the fact that they make, like you said, like $15 billion, yet get nothing from it. You know, that's all going in somebody's pockets of the institutions, pockets of the boosters, whoever is like getting paid off this money, which is why, you know, I'm all for players getting paid, you know, and we support their right to form organizations and have a negotiation about how that money gets spent, because they making it, you know, and I mean, that's I think y'all hit on great points. Like this whole facade of collegiate athletes is done. And even like, you know, you talk about, you know, James brought up a great point. We don't even have the research on like the long-term effects of COVID, you know, but think about it. In this country, has it ever mattered, the long-term effects in terms of making money? You know what I'm saying? Think about all the factories that was built in like predominantly Black neighborhoods, in which you got people in that neighborhood who live by like a waste facility getting cancer years later. Or think about like you got playgrounds and elementary schools built on like lead, you know what I'm saying, and a bunch of shit. So it doesn't matter, you know what I'm saying, because it's all about making that buck right now, which is why we 100% support everything that the players say. And I think the biggest point, and you know, we're listening to your show, James, every night, 1010 XL 92.5. The best point you would make about this whole COVID shit is the fact that these millionaires are scared. These billionaires are scared. And, you know, because it's like you crazy because you got like half the country that think it's fake and the other half is freaking out. You know what I mean? You know, rightfully so, I think. But the fact that people, it was so wild to me, the people who deny COVID exists, because these billionaires who don't give a shit about nothing when it comes to stuff, the fact that they was scared and not playing games and losing money, you know, I mean, what is was a Paul Mooney scare? He said when white people get scared, I get scared. When rich people get scared, that's when I'm looking at it like, okay, this shit is real, you know what I'm saying? Because they lost money, millions and billions of dollars, and you know they got to get that back. But it's a real thing that they had to deal with it and contend with. I mean, look at University of Florida right now, COVID, 2 weeks of football. I mean, think about the money that has been lost in Gainesville because of that, and that's money out of people's pockets that week. you know, they may can get it back towards the end of the year, but you don't know what's going to happen at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying? And, you know,
and I'm sharing that right there. You know, just we can never get enough Dan Mullen. You know, 90,000. You know, in there.
I don't know why he said that. First of all, like
right before.
it was just the dumbest. It's just the dumbest. I think he said that after because you know definitely Texas A&M had
a pretty big crowd. Pretty big crowd.
Good crowd. But he just threw that out there, and yeah, this is bad look, man, for you to be like, we need to pack the swamp out and then
get COVID yourself and then miss 2 weeks. But real quick, I want to give James a chance to describe the foundation a little bit because we've been remiss not hitting on that. It's pretty awesome to see like all the stuff you're doing with the kids and not just, you know, a lot of times you see people kind of, you know, there's players in the community just sort of doing photo op stuff, and that's not at all what this is. So maybe if you want to explain, you know, kind of how the foundation got started and what y'all are doing in the community in Jacksonville and I think in Tallahassee too, right?
Yeah, we do it. We did it in Tallahassee and in Jacksonville. And I was originally, I mean, I'm not going to pretend and say like that, you know, I'm this saint or philanthropist or whatever, because I was going to, I mean, I do nice stuff all the time. It started really last year. We had the hurricane come here and cancel the Boise game. So we took a lot of the money from the tailgate that I was going to have and we put that in. We bought, I think 1,000 tickets for kids in the Tallahassee area to go to their first FSU game, and they were able to eat at my tailgate there. Then we gave kids tickets to every game. Tag was going through a little something, so there was a group of kids at Buckley Elementary School.
Willie Taggart, for those of you who aren't, don't know, old head coach.
Some kids from Buckley Elementary School wrote this really nice, these nice letters of encouragement to the players. Mm-hmm. And while I'm hard on players because I'm in media and I'm a former guy and all this other stuff, it was very kind of these kids to do it. And I have this philosophy, MFTK, man, fuck them kids philosophy. And people were like, oh, it's kind of odd that you're just like that. And I said, well, you have to understand there's deeper meaning to that. It's them kids I don't like. These is my kids. I like my kids. I just don't like them kids. So that was kind of the running joke, the entire thing. So, you know, so I was going to go to the Dominican. I turned 36 this past summer, and COVID obviously shut down all of my plans, and I was going to throw this big birthday party. So I said, man, you know what? Let me take some of this money that I was going to do, and let's go brighten somebody's day. And I kind of just threw it out there on Twitter, and then people gassed me up. And I don't like doing things. I do something and then I say, hey, if you want to help, join. But I don't like relying on other people because people are unreliable. So if I go out and say I'm gonna have 100 book bags, you know that I'm putting up 100. I have the ability to put up 100 book bags.
Yeah.
Now I ended up putting up 50. But we ended up getting 250 book bags in Tallahassee at Bowden Elementary School on the side of town. And I grew up on the south side of Tallahassee. I didn't go to that elementary school, but and then we fed 250 families. And then here in Jacksonville, we did 300 book bags, and we fed 450 families. And then now we have a weekly food drive through Share the Love here in Jacksonville. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can look up Share the Love. Yeah. And we have different locations where we, you know, it ain't what I'm talking about now. If it's me now, I ain't gonna just put my name behind something. You gonna eat. It was good. Like we had cabbage, we had some zucchini that was as big as my arm. We had real cuts of meat. Like it was stuff that, you know, heck, when I looked at what we was giving when they came in, I was like, hold up, man, let me put something to let me take care of me. Give me some food. But it was something that a lot of people, like, it wasn't just cheap food that we were giving away to people. Right. It was good stuff. So the rest of 2020, we're going to do that. The MFTK Foundation will be mentor for the kids. And we're going to do book bag drives, sports camps, coding camps. I'm going to do a coding camp, I believe, in March. And the only way you can come to the sports camp for free in June is you have to participate in the coding camp. Gotcha. So because like you said, I need people to understand that there's nothing wrong with smart your way out the hood too. And there's an incredible amount of talent that gets wasted in these neighborhoods. That's from a bit. I learned the metric system, how to convert metrics, the metric and American system, before I was even in middle school.
Yeah.
And that's because if you're no matter how you feel, when you're moving drugs, if people are moving drugs in your neighborhood, you have to be able to convert. So those are things that if you can understand that, you can understand other things. Some of the best businessmen that I know who understand logistics, distribution, marketing, they all happen to be in other arenas. But again, if we could capture them when they're younger, give them hope, give them reasons to not have to go out there and get that extra $1 or $2, then we'll be there. Because the original back to school drives were the dope boys. Those are the guys who gave me, I don't know about everybody, but I know for me, when my mom gave me a couple dollars to go get some school stuff, when they saw us catching the bus to go get it, they knew when tax-free weekend was, and they would give us the $100 as we were hitting the bus, and then we go do what we need to do. And imagine if a not just former football players, but a lawyer did that, a doctor did that. And I think me in the media mindset or the media lane that I'm in now, I play football, but I'm also a journalist. I'm also on TV. So now if I could inspire a kid to, okay, I don't have to go out and hit people. I can think my way. And I can show them how I think my way to dollars. Maybe that'll be something that can change people.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Mike, you got anything you want to respond to in terms of Jacksonville? What's going on with that, or any thoughts?
No, man, definitely want to support that any way we can. You know, we got a community organization I work with, and we always down to support. You know what I'm saying, stuff y'all doing. So definitely want to support that. And my wife, she'll teach her at like Orange Park Middle, and she'll come home from a day, and I always tell her MFTK. And she understands what it means.
Same, man. It just makes you feel better, man, because there's times like right now, with these kids right now running around my house, I want to say them MFTK too. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a tongue-in-cheek joke, man, but like I say, man, it's I actually like my kids.
It doesn't mean you ain't got love, man. It just means if you're actually around kids, I love it. The people that are going to hate on people saying that are the ones that only study kids in theory, you know, that ain't actually got to deal with them. And, you know, you don't realize that got to take the good with the bad, man. So
before we I think we're wrapping up because I know, you know, everybody got stuff to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
One last take before we leave. Your thoughts on Florida State football and then Jacksonville Jaguar football. I feel like watching both games. I'm watching the same defense. It's kind of crazy. I feel like when I'm watching the Jag, it's just depressing. Like Sundays, I get depressing. Then on Mondays, I'm depressed. And I'm good on Tuesdays. I also don't have expectations, but I try. It's, you know, like I hate these teams, man. Motherfuck MFTK. Man. Motherfuck.
And teams, MFTT.
I mean, the Jags are just bad. They're just a terrible run organization. It's really the NFL is really no other way to get around it. It's just the Steelers are the Steelers because they are a really professionally ran organization. Like you can't really think of the last 20 years. Well, maybe I think the statistic was out of the last 20 years, the Steelers have missed the playoffs 5 times and none of them were back to back.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Like, but that's just expecting excellence. So you know, you got a coach, you got an owner who's had a loser all but 1 year he's been here. And we thought hiring a coach who coached under the loser was the best idea. So, you know, they are what they are. It sucks that I have to actually watch them and talk about them, but it is what it is. Now, as far as Florida State, when they sold their soul to keep Jimbo, they should have done what was necessary to keep it. Like when you get a bad chick and you had to pay for her, you can't stop paying when now all of a sudden you got a contract. You got to get her what she wants. You knew she was who she was when you got her. She didn't change. You changed. Yeah. So we should have got Jimbo the Birkin bag, which would have been the football only facility and all these different things in a timely fashion. So what do? We let him walk, and he took $75 million. I ain't mad at him. I just mad at how he left, but you know that's a lot of money. Go get your bread, though. And then we brought Taggart in, and you brought Taggart in, and you tried to be cheap. So now all of a sudden you didn't all the things that you didn't want to do for Jimbo that you kind of did. You conceded. You snatched those things back, and you expected this man with less. You expected this man with less to come in and do more.
Yeah.
And then you did something now again that was unprecedented. You fired a coach in a year and a half of coaching, a season and a half. No coach should be fired before 3 recruiting cycles, really 4. So you fired him early, and you fired him early with no real plan of succession. You don't fire a coach in the middle of the season unless you got a coach that you know is about to come in. Yeah. And I can promise you it wasn't Mike Norvell. Because if it was Mike Norvell, they would have acted accordingly. Then when you missed and you got Mike Norvell, you allow Mike Norvell to finish what he started at Memphis and get them the conference championship, which is admirable. But no, like, we need you to get on recruiting because recruiting is important. So you messed up that. You messed up your recruiting because you got behind the 8 ball when it came to that. And now you get COVID, and now you have all these things. You have a media that trash Taggart every step that they could and still being petty. To this day, when they talk about how much organized they're still petty. But they refuse to actually acknowledge the fact that you have a shitty product that you're putting on the field.
Yeah.
And you have a coach who's a good guy, but a coach who this moment is too big for him. Yeah. This coach was not ready for this job. This coach, in 3 years, he might have been ready for this job, but he's not ready in who he is right now. But now you're stuck with him because you got $18 million to one coach that you own, and you can't afford to pay $18 million and build the stuff that you need to build to make this program successful, like the football-only facility and things. So what Florida State has to realize is that what you thought was the lost decade, what you thought was holding things up to the standard, you're about to witness something even worse unless drastic things are taken. And I don't think firing Norvell is the drastic change. I think really you got to support him with more money and more funds than you've ever done. So that's the only way that you're going to get recruits is to wow them. The only way you're going to be able to keep quality assistant coaches is to wow them. And at worst, if it fails, and in 3 years we have to fire him. Yeah. You know what? At least you have all the bells and whistles to be able to actively recruit the best coach. Because right now you needed a guy who had proven himself on a Power 5 level as opposed to going 2 G5 coaches back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. You know, I mean, because like you're right, Taggart only coached that 1 year at Oregon, and then you know, and Norvell did what he did in Memphis. But yeah, I mean, I know people talk about the lost decade. You know, I guess like people think of that 30-0 loss to Wake Forest, and it's funny because I played, you know, went to high school with John Russell and Riley Skinner and those guys, and like they John Jr. is a good friend of mine, John Russell that is, and I mean you shouldn't. I tell him all the time, and he agrees. Like, you know, you shouldn't have Wake Forest. I mean, when he played, they beat Florida State 3 out of his 4 years at Wake Forest, including 3 in a row. And but
that Wake Forest team too also won the ACC championship, so they were a little bit. Yeah. They were a little bit better than what people remember. What I remember Wake Forest being. Absolutely. That was the game where I got to take my jersey off and you know, coach the guys up. You know, at about the third quarter. So, but I do think this is the standard. And my co-host for my podcast, 36 Degrees, shared something yesterday that was pretty interesting that I saw.
Gino Hayes, right?
No, that's
Dope Boys. What happened to Dope Boys, man? Yeah, any more episodes?
Gino kind of fell off. You know, my dog had some personal issues he had to get in there. Now I gotta keep doing my research on Dope Campbell and how I feel about that.
Yeah, so all right.
But it's a cool name. It's such a cool name.
To answer that yet?
Yeah, man, it's such a cool name for him to be such a oh man, it's just tough. But she put this is like you have the standard versus the expectation, and you can't lower one if you can't lower the first one because the second one or you'll lose both. So the standard is always going to be championships.
Yeah,
at Florida State. That's what it needs to be.
Right.
Now my expectation this year was 8-4, 7-4 at worst.
Yeah,
I had no delusions of grandeur that we were going to win a national championship. But in order to win a national championship, you have to take steps. Yeah. So right now, we're not taking. My expectations was to take steps, and we're not. And I'm sorry, they're just more disciplined. They're more penalized. Yeah. They don't do the little things right. They don't do a lot. Right now, what's been accepted, and I think it's because of the fan base and coddling, because in their heart, if you're a real fan, and you know we're wrong for firing Taggart, in a season and a half. Doesn't mean Taggart was doing well. You just know we're wrong, and you know why we fired Taggart in a season and a half. And the reason why you're being overly nice right now is because you don't want to admit that you're wrong, that you were wrong.
Yeah.
And we do it in everything. So, like, the reason why America is so split and divided right now, and the reason why people are so sensitive about Trump is that they don't want people doing to Trump what people did to Obama.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same mindset that people are taking with Florida State right now. But that's not the way. That's a loser mindset. No matter what, you got to be able to dish out what you gave. But the reality is, just because you felt you were too hard on another coach and you don't want to make that mistake, doesn't mean that coddling and babying him. Major Payne had this quote in the movie, get the nipple out that boy's mouth and let him breathe. He's a big boy. He doesn't need to be breastfed. He's getting paid $4.5 million a year.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah. So we'll, go. I mean, just real the wrap. I know we got to wrap, but I'll just say that the Doak Campbell thing is not unique just to Florida State. I mean, you go through the South, right, and look at the presidents, look at the statues on these campuses. Kellen Mond at Texas A&M was actually leading they had a group of those football players and other student athletes or unpaid athletic laborers, whatever you want, and talking about taking down the statue to their racist slave-owning, founder. And then you have at University of Florida, the Stephen C. O'Connell Center, where they play basketball. He was a segregationist, hardcore segregationist. So I mean, this is not just like a lot of people when these things come up, they think it's like picking on their school or whatever. But the fact that there's so many of them should make people realize it's a little more systemic than just anecdotal. So
very systemic. And I know some people like to subscribe to the notion that you can't look at 50, 60 years ago in today's lenses, but I can't because it's my skin tone. And I told people the only reason that I'm a proponent of taking Doak off the name, off the stadium, and even won't really use it for a podcast, isn't because he was a bad president. He was a good president. It's because the mere fact of me playing in that stadium offends his legacy.
Right.
His legacy was as a segregationist. Now, if I could find some information to where maybe he hooked FAMU up with some land or some property, or he did some other stuff, then maybe. But right now, I know
George Wallace did stuff like, before he became a segregationist, he represented black people and no one else would. But still, what did his legacy go down as? He made his bed, right? I mean, so.
My thing is that if you were so segregationist that you refused to have a teacher conference at your school because FAMU professors wanted to come. That's just hard.
It's hard to reconcile. That's hard to reconcile for sure. All right,
it's hard, but the reason why that stadium is famous is because of black guys. But the name on that, he didn't want that to happen. So I just think it's disrespectful to his legacy to keep it on there. That's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, I'm not even caring about his legacy, but it's just like to think of like the people that made that stadium, that made it special, that made it electric, and all those nights, Saturday nights at Doak. It's like, the dude, he wasn't about that, and it's like, and his name is going to live on in immortality. We don't just, who we give. It says a lot about who has power in terms of who gets named what, and whose name lives on, right? And history creates the present, man. So when people say all this stuff was in the past, man, all that stuff is what combined together to create the reality we're living in right now. So I never understand, that whole notion of like, it's way in the past, man. You don't understand how everything's just one day after another, it's
the
not
biggest
like there's
thing,
the
biggest thing they ever say is we take away the past, we're going to rewrite it. So we take down the statue of the slave owner, we're going to go back to slavery. That don't make sense.
It's such a perversion of that quote, man.
Just if
but we're going to go ahead, and I think we should go ahead and wrap now. We've been going for a good bit. I might even break this into a two-part thing, but I appreciate it, James. And good conversation, good talk, and having Mike back in the saddle with me is good. So maybe we'll do this again sometime. I appreciate it, and we'll put all your info in the show notes. All right. So
all right, no doubt, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, with that, we'll wrap. All right. Peace.